It was a quiet Sunday afternoon, the kind of day when sunlight filters softly through the trees and laughter fills the park. Ethan sat on a worn wooden bench, watching his 7-year-old son, Noah, chase bubbles across the playground. For a moment, life felt normal, peaceful. But then something changed. Out of the corner of his eye, Ethan noticed a small figure sitting by the swings. A little girl, maybe 5 or 6, her pink dress torn at the edge, her eyes red from crying. She clutched a tiny stuffed bunny like it was her only friend in the world. Ethan frowned. There were no adults nearby, no parents calling her name. Just this little girl, trembling and lost. He hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should approach. Then she looked up, and in that instant his heart skipped a beat. Around her hung a silver necklace, shaped like half a heart. It was old, scratched, and yet hauntingly familiar. His breath caught. He instinctively reached for his own chest, where he still wore a matching half-heart pendant, something he hadn't taken off in nearly 8 years. His hands began to shake. No, it couldn't be. Why would this random child have something identical to the one Leela had given him before she vanished? He stood frozen, eyes wide, unable to breathe, as memories he'd buried deep began to resurface. Who was this little girl? And why did her necklace feel like a piece of his past? Ethan took a slow breath and knelt beside his son. "Hey, buddy, stay right here for a second, okay?" Noah nodded, his curious eyes following his father as he walked toward the swings. The little girl sat still, her knees pulled tight to her chest. When Ethan got closer, she flinched, gripping her necklace so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Hey there," he said softly, crouching to her level. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Are you lost?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced around, scanning the park as if searching for someone who never came. Finally, in a trembling whisper, she said, "I can't find my mommy." Her voice cracked on the last word, and Ethan's chest tightened. "It's all right," he murmured. "We'll find her together. What's your name?" She hesitated, her big brown eyes blinking back tears. "Lily," she said quietly. Ethan froze. Lily. The name hit him like a wave. So close to Leela, the woman he had once loved, the woman who had disappeared with his unborn child years ago. He studied her face more closely now, the soft curls of her hair, the dimple on her left cheek when she sniffled. Something about her features felt familiar. Too familiar. "Lily," he repeated, his voice barely audible. "That's a beautiful name." She looked up at him then, and for a heartbeat, Ethan felt something impossible, a flicker of recognition he couldn't explain. Who was this child? Ethan gently led Lily toward the park bench where Noah waited. He wrapped his jacket around her small shoulders and handed her a juice box from his bag. "It's going to be all right," he said softly, dialing the police. As he explained the situation to the dispatcher, his eyes never left the girl. Something about her, the way she tilted her head, the tone of her voice, kept stirring memories he didn't want to face. Minutes later, he hung up. "The police are on their way," he told her. "They'll help us find your mom." Lily nodded, clutching the necklace again. "Mommy said if I ever get lost, I should stay where I am. She said someone kind will find me." Ethan smiled faintly. "She's right. You're very brave." Lily hesitated, her eyes glistening. "Mommy said Daddy was brave too." The words hit Ethan like a punch. "Your Daddy?" he repeated carefully. "What's his name?" Lily looked down, fiddling with the pendant. "I don't know. Mommy said he went away before I was born. She said his name made her sad." His pulse quickened. He swallowed hard, his mind spinning for reason, for logic. But there was none. Ethan's grip tightened around his phone. He felt his throat close, his mind screaming for reason, for logic. Could this be real? Could the little girl sitting before him truly be his daughter? The thought terrified him, yet deep down something in his heart already knew the answer.
As Lily sipped her juice quietly beside Noah, Ethan's mind drifted, pulled backward through years he had tried so hard to forget. 8 years ago, he had been a different man, young, hopeful, and head over heels in love with Leela. She was radiant, the kind of woman who made every day feel like sunrise. They had met in college, fallen in love fast, and dreamed even faster. When Leela told him she was pregnant, Ethan swore he would build a life for them. He'd found a small apartment, painted the nursery himself, even picked out names. But then, everything shattered. One stormy night, she was just gone. No note, no call, no trace. Her phone disconnected, her apartment empty. Ethan searched every hospital, every town nearby, clinging to the faint hope that she'd come back. Weeks turned into months, months into years. People told him to move on, to let go. But how do you let go of the only person who ever made you feel whole? He still remembered the last thing she said before she disappeared. "If something ever happens to me, keep this close." She handed him a silver pendant, half a heart, engraved with the words, "Forever yours." And he had kept it, every single day. Now, sitting in that park, staring at the other half hanging around Lily's neck, he felt the weight of fate pressing down. Could Leela have kept their child hidden? Had she run away to protect her? Ethan's eyes blurred with tears as his heart pounded with a terrifying mix of hope and fear. If this little girl was truly his daughter, then destiny had just brought her back to him in the most unexpected way imaginable. Ethan's hands trembled as he tried to steady his breathing. The park seemed to fade into a blur. The laughter of children, the rustling of leaves, even Noah's voice in the distance felt far away. All he could see was the glimmer of silver around Lily's neck. "Hey, Lily," he said gently, kneeling beside her. "That's a very special necklace you have there. Where did you get it?" She looked down at the pendant and smiled faintly. "Mommy gave it to me before she went to heaven. She said it was from someone who loved us very much." Ethan's throat tightened. Before she went to heaven? His heart thudded painfully. He could barely find the strength to speak. Can I see it for a second?" Lily nodded and slipped the chain over her head, placing the little heart-shaped pendant in his trembling hands. He turned it over slowly. On the back, faint but still visible, were 2 words etched in cursive. "Forever yours." The same engraving is his. With shaking fingers, he pulled his own pendant from under his shirt. The edges were worn, the metal dulled by years of pain. He brought the 2 halves together, and they clicked perfectly into place, forming one whole heart. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. The world stopped. No words, no explanations, just the overwhelming realization crashing through him like a wave. This was no coincidence, no random child. The little girl sitting before him, with Leela's eyes, Leela's smile, and his own dimple, was his daughter. Tears filled his eyes as he looked at her, whispering hoarsely, "Lily, it's you." Fate hadn't forgotten him after all. It had simply waited for this exact, impossible moment. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance as 2 police officers entered the park. Ethan quickly wiped his tears, trying to pull himself together. Lily sat beside him, swinging her small legs, unaware of the storm raging inside his heart. One officer knelt. "Sir, are you the one who called?" "Yes," Ethan said hoarsely. "She was alone near the swings." The officer smiled reassuringly at Lily. "We've been looking for you, sweetheart. Your guardian's on her way." Ethan's pulse spiked. "Her guardian?" Before the officer could answer, a woman rushed toward them, mid-30s, eyes filled with panic and relief. She dropped to her knees, pulling Lily into her arms. "Oh, thank God! Lily, I was so scared." Ethan watched, frozen, unsure what to say. The woman turned to him, her expression softening. "Thank you for staying with her. I looked away for 1 minute and she wandered off." Ethan forced a shaky nod. "She said her mom's name was Leela." The woman's face grew solemn. "Yes, Leela Carter, her birth mother. She passed away in a car accident 5 years ago." She paused, lowering her voice. "I adopted Lily soon after. There weren't many records about her father." The words hit Ethan like a thunderclap. His vision blurred as he clutched the reunited pendant halves in his palm. 5 years ago. That would have been right after Leela disappeared for good. Tears welled in his eyes. Fate hadn't just brought him to a lost little girl. It had brought him to the daughter he never knew he had. The officer's voice faded into the background as Ethan whispered, almost to himself, "Leela kept her promise. She brought her back to me." And for the first time in years, his tears weren't just from loss, but from love rediscovered. Ethan stood motionless as the truth settled over him like a heavy rain. Lily, his daughter, was right in front of him, yet slipping away once more. The officer spoke gently, explaining procedures, but their words blurred into a distant hum. He could have said something. He could have demanded answers, begged for time, pleaded for time. Every instinct screamed to hold on. But when he looked at Lily, her innocent eyes, her trusting smile, he knew what love really meant. Love wasn't possession. It was sacrifice. He knelt before her, forcing a trembling smile. "Hey, Lily, stay brave, okay?" She tilted her head. "Will I see you again?" Ethan swallowed hard. "I hope so, sweetheart. I really do." The guardian gently took Lily's hand, but before leaving, Lily reached into her pocket and pressed something into Ethan's palm. A tiny drawing of 2 hearts joined together. He stared at it, speechless, as she turned to wave. "Bye, Mr. Ethan." The pendant halves glimmered softly in the fading sunlight. And in that fleeting moment, Ethan understood, even if life had separated them, something greater had already bound their hearts forever. Weeks later, a small envelope arrived at Ethan's doorstep. Inside was a drawing, 2 pendants forming 1 heart, colored in crayon, signed "Love, Lily." Tears blurred his vision as he held it close, feeling Leela's spirit in every line. Sometimes, destiny doesn't return what we've lost. It simply reminds us that love never leaves. Ethan framed the drawing, whispering, "Thank you, Leela, for bringing her back." Friends, if this story touched your heart, share it, because love, no matter how far it drifts, always finds its way home, sometimes through the hands of a child.